Manchester United lost again, and this time it was much more brutal than the previous match against Tottenham Hotspur. But the numbers showed that Ruben Amorim's team played very well. The Red Devils lost to Bournemouth. It was a disgrace. Noussair Mazraoui had his worst game since arriving here, and Bruno had a forgettable day, constantly wasting the team's chances. Finding a bright spot in that game was impossible. United are still a mess in set pieces. Malaysia at wingback was overwhelmed, and Xerxes is still as bad as ever. But there's a truth that the team's performance could be much worse if Manchester United decided to put their faith in a surprising, emotional choice instead of really studying the data. They took a gamble with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and then failed. And looking at Van Gaal's difficult journey at Leicester right now, it's safe to say that if he had stayed with this team, the honeymoon period with that winning streak probably wouldn't have lasted long. At least, looking at how Amorim organizes the team, makes choices, and makes progress in his style of play, the belief in the future is still strong. But rushing like the leadership of the Foxes, they could be on the path to relegation again. Dutch legend Ruud van Nistelrooy, once one of Manchester United's greatest strikers, is going through a turbulent journey on the sidelines. As manager of Leicester City, he is facing a more challenging test than ever. Last month, Van Nistelrooy left Manchester United in disappointment. After Erik ten Hag was sacked, Van Gaal was given the opportunity to be interim manager at Old Trafford. The 4 games he led brought 3 wins and 1 draw. An excellent record considering the team's instability. But when Ruben Amorim was appointed as the official head coach, Van Nistelrooy had to say goodbye, even though he had expressed his desire to stay long-term. "I am here to help United and I am very serious," he shared in an interview. "So when I had to leave, I was very disappointed and heartbroken." However, that departure probably opened an opportunity for him at Leicester City, a team in crisis and in need of a new hand to reshape them. Just a few weeks after leaving Manchester United, Van Nistelrooy was appointed by Leicester City to replace Steve Cooper, who was sacked after a disappointing 12-game run in the Premier League. With a contract running until 2027, he began his new journey at the King Power Stadium. If he succeeds in helping a team like Leicester stay up in this season, along with the credit for his ability to shape the team, Van Gaal will be among the most talented coaches in this new era. His first match day saw Van Nistelrooy in the stands, watching his new team's humiliating 1-4 defeat to Brentford. It was a difficult and somewhat worrying start, but 3 days later, his first match in direct charge brought a bit of hope. Leicester icon Jamie Vardy opened the scoring, and the team won 3-1 against West Ham to the great delight of their fans. However, that victory was not enough to hide the deep problems that exist at Leicester, with the opponent's expected goals reaching 3.10, and the Foxes still managed a clean sheet. It was perhaps just a temporary miracle rather than the foundation of an era. Their midfield is still bad. The ability to defend against counterattacks is still a weakness. And after that, Leicester has not won in the following 3 matches. The draw against Brighton was also a miracle win. After 86 minutes, the Foxes were down 2-0, only for 2 goals by Cordovarede and Vardy to snatch a point for them at King Power. But then came a 0-4 loss to Newcastle and 0-3 to Wolverhampton. That was when the team's shortcomings became clearer than ever. In the previous game against Newcastle, after conceding just 1 goal in the first half, goalkeeper Hermansen was injured and gave Danny Ward, a real liability, a chance, and in just about 15 minutes, he conceded 3 goals. On a day when Cody played horribly, and the attack had only 1 shot on target for the entire match. It's no wonder they lost. When their morale collapsed, the 0-3 defeat to a team that had been on a 4-match losing streak like Wolverhampton was understandable. To be fair, in the last 2 games, Leicester has gradually lost key players like midfielder Ndidi and goalkeeper Hermansen. Fatawu and Ricardo Pereira are still out with long-term injuries and may not return until next year. But even with these absences, it does not cover up Van Nistelrooy's problems at the moment. He does not have a concrete plan to create a DNA for the team. Emotion and inspiration are needed, but they are just temporary seasonings, healing the cracks. Leicester was already in a dire situation after losing Enzo Maresca to Chelsea, and with 2 managers in a short time, it seems they are making mistakes. Leicester City today is no longer the team that made the miracle of winning the Premier League in 2016, or lifted the FA Cup 3 years ago. Instead, they are facing a comprehensive decline. From the squad, tactics, to senior management. Since the end of the 2022 to 2023 season, Leicester has made a series of piecemeal decisions rather than long-term ones. They once had high hopes for Enzo Maresca but quickly parted ways with him after just one season. Then came Steve Cooper, another choice that didn't yield the desired results. Now, they are putting their faith in Van Nistelrooy, even though his coaching career still has much to prove. The biggest concern for Van Nistelrooy is not his ability to inspire or shape an attacking style of play, which he demonstrated during his short time at Manchester United. Rather, the problem lies in his ability to organize the defense, a vital factor for a team teetering on the brink like Leicester. The statistics do not lie. 37 goals conceded after just half a season, the second worst in the Premier League. 305 shots faced, the third worst. Even in Van Nistelrooy's first 4 games in charge, Leicester faced 82 shots, a red flag for any coach. Just imagine how dire the situation would be for the Red Devils' ability to defend set pieces and crosses under Van Gaal. It could be even worse. Leicester's defense is simply not good enough. Players like Wout Faes, Caleb Okoli, and even experienced players like Connor Cody have failed to meet expectations. In the goalkeeper position, Danny Ward continues to disappoint. The decision to use Ward in 2024 is perhaps one of the most incomprehensible decisions that a Premier League coach could make. But it is a forced one. The lack of organization, constant personnel changes, and poor form have turned Leicester's defense into a disaster. Even when Hermansen plays relatively well, he cannot compensate for the mistakes of his teammates in front of him. Meanwhile, in attack, Leicester is not much better. Jamie Vardy, while still scoring goals, is no longer fit to carry the attack at 37. Attempts to replace Vardy over the past decade have all failed. Kelechi Iheanacho and Patson Daka have never really stepped up to the level the team needs. In a squad that is both aging and lacks depth, scoring goals has become a difficult task. The instability also lies in the way the team is managed. Their wage bill is higher than teams like Brighton, Fulham, or Bournemouth, but that money is spent on players like Danny Ward or Wout Faes, who don't make a difference. Poor transfer decisions, weak contract management, and the lack of a long-term plan have pushed Leicester into their current state. The role of John Rudkin, Leicester's director of football, is also increasingly being criticized. He is primarily responsible for building the squad and transfer activities. However, his decisions, from spending £20 million on Oliver Skip, a midfielder with no special qualities, to loaning Odsonne Edouard but only playing him for 26 minutes, have all been disappointing. In the stands, chants of "we want Rudkin out" are growing louder. Add another disappointing choice at head coach, and so, the recipe for a disaster is brewing for the team at King Power. With the upcoming schedule, Leicester has to face Liverpool, Manchester City, Aston Villa, Fulham, and Tottenham Hotspur. These opponents are all superior to Leicester in every aspect. After getting 4 points from the first 2 games, it's hard to predict anything other than 7 consecutive losses in the upcoming run of matches. Looking back, perhaps Manchester United's failure to put their full faith in Van Nistelrooy has turned out to be a positive thing, because at least under Ruben Amorim, the way the team is positioning itself is gradually being felt by the fans. They lose for a reason, and they win for a reason. Everything is not vague or uncertain anymore, and that should always be the starting point for a new era.